which I forgot how to do. Okay. We'll begin by singing Jai Radha Madhava to invoke the presence of Sri Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Parivrajikacharya Shtotara Sat, Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti, Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. It's very nice to be in the presence of all of you today, this morning, to both serve Srimad Bhagavatam and serve the Assembly of Vaishnavas. As Vidagdha Madhava Prabhu said, we are reading the first canto, Creation, chapter 15, the Pandavas retire timely, and we are on verse 12. I will share that screen. Okie dokie. Wonderful. Let's invoke the presence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yatejasata Bhagavan Yudhishulapanir Bhisma Pita Sagirijoshtramadan Nijamme Anye Pichahamamunaiva Kalevarena Prapto Mahindra Bhavane Mahadasanardham. I'll read it 2 more times just so we can get a sense of the meter, and then we can all repeat. Yate jasata bhagavan yudhishulapanir Visma pitasa girijoshtramadan nijamme Anye pichahamamunaiva kalevarena Prapto Mahindra Bhavane Mahadasanardham. Yate jasata Bhagavan Yudhishulapanir Visma pitasa girijoshtramadan nijamme Anye pichahamamunaiva kalevarena Prapto Mahindra Bhavane Mahadasanardham. If anyone would like to give it a try, please feel free.
Can I go ahead, Prabhu? Yattejasta Bhagavan Yudhisulapanir Vismapita Sagirijo Astramadan Nijamme Anye Pichaham Amunaiva Kalevarena Prapto Mahendra Bhavane Asanardham. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sadhu. Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'll give it a try.
Excellent.
Ya Tejasa Bhagavan Yudhi Sulapanir Vismapati Ijiro Sram Adan Nijanme Anye Pichanam Amuniavi Kale Varinan Prabdo Mahendra Bhavane Mahad Asanardam.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I would like to give it a try, Prabhu. You might have to help me. Yatte jasatya bhagavan yudhishulapanir vishmapita sagirijostram hadhan nijam me anye pichaham amunaiva kalevarena prapto mahendra bhavane mahad asanardam. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So we'll go to the synonyms. Yat, by whose, tejasa, by influence. Sometimes they even say tejas is like refulgence or effulgence or brightness. There's a song that REM, the band, came out with called Shiny Happy People. And it's about the devotees. You know, these when the devotees, Vishnu Jan Swami, and even when the devotees nowadays go out to perform Harinam or to be outside, there's a brightness and it's influential. When you see it, the devotees glow, don't they? You see somebody that's like woken up earlier, after they leave a Bhagavatam class or after they leave a kirtan. Maybe we don't always notice because, perhaps we're also bright with contact with Krishna, but it's definitely others can notice it. So this is Tejas. Ata, at one time, Bhagavan, the personality of God, Lord Shiva, Yuti, in battle, Shulapani, one who has a trident in his hand, Vismapita, astonished, Sagirija, along with the daughter of the Himalaya mountains, Ashtram, weapons, Adat, awarded, Nijam, of his own, Me, unto me, Anye, api, so also others, Cha, and Aham, myself, Amuna, by this, Eva, definitely, Kalevarena, by the body, Prapta, obtained, Maha Indra Bhavane, in the house of Indradev, Mahat, great, Asana Ardham, half elevated seat. And the translation and the purport are given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One thing that we might do is we'll read and then we'll comment on some things that Srila Prabhupada says so that we don't lose the sequence or the string of logic that Prabhupada's following. It was by his influence only that in a fight I was able to astonish the personality of God, Lord Shiva, and his wife, the daughter of Mount Himalaya. Thus he, Lord Shiva, became pleased with me and awarded me his own weapon. Other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to me, and in addition, I was able to reach the heavenly planets in this present body and was allowed a half-elevated seat. So in the context, who is his here? Just so we can contextualize ourselves, who is by whose influence in a fight?
Bhagwan. Lord.
Bhagwan, Sri Krishna. And who is speaking? I was able to astonish. Who is I?
Arjuna.
Arjuna. So Arjuna's speaking with Yudhishthira Maharaj about Krishna's ability to, how the contact with Krishna, the relationship with Krishna changed his life. Purport. Thank you, Prabhu. By the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, all the demigods, including Lord Shiva, were pleased with Arjuna. The ideal is that one who is favored by Lord Shiva or any other demigod may not necessarily be favored by the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Ravana was certainly a great devotee of Lord Shiva, but he could not be saved from the wrath of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Ramachandra. And there are many instances like that in the history of the Puranas. But here is an instance where we can see that Lord Shiva became pleased even in the fight with Arjuna. The devotees of the Supreme Lord know how to respect the demigods, but the devotees of the demigods sometimes foolishly think that the Supreme Personality is no greater than the demigods. By such a conception, one becomes an offender and ultimately meets with the same end as Ravana and others. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well for Ravana in the Ramayana. He was ultimately defeated by Lord Ramachandra by an arrow in the chest. The instances described by Arjuna during his friendly dealings with Lord Sri Krishna are instructive for all who may be convinced by the lessons that one can achieve all favors simply by pleasing the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whereas the devotees or worshippers of the demigods may achieve only partial benefits, which are also perishable, just as the demigods themselves. So let's talk about this for a minute. One thing you may benefit from doing is when reading Srila Prabhupada, when reading his purports, you can see is there a verse in Shastra that Prabhupada's quoting here without directly quoting to us? That's something that I appreciate doing, because part of Prabhupada's humility is he doesn't often say, I notice this. But because Srila Prabhupada sees, as so many devotees do, through the eyes of Shastra, his realizations are in line with the realizations of Shastra. And here's one thing that stuck out to me. The instances described by Arjuna during his friendly dealings with Lord Sri Krishna are instructive for all who may be convinced by the lessons that one can achieve all favors simply by pleasing the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Is there a verse that anyone knows that is very similar to this sentence here that you'd like to share? Or does this remind you of anything? It's a verse. Yes, Prabhu.
It reminds me of when Arjuna's. See, I think it's when he saw the universal form in Bhagavad Gita, and he's like, kind of thinking, "Oh man, this is like my friend. I've been like dealing with you as my friend, but you're like the Supreme Lord."
Very nice. And then he apologizes, right? Oh my, I'm sorry. I called you friend and cousin. We laid on the same bed like chums. Is it that, right?
Yeah, like that.
Very nice. So yeah, you're pulling from this Arjuna during his friendly dealings with Lord Sri Krishna, right? Lord implies a lot. Vidagda, Prabhu, you were saying that Bhagavan, that's kind of what this Lord, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So Arjuna is being very friendly with him. There was a, thank you, Balani Tai Prabhu. There's another verse that I was thinking of for the second part. And it's Shraddha Sabde Vishwasa Kahe Sudrida Nischai Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritahai. For this part, all who may be convinced by the lessons that one can achieve all favors simply by pleasing Lord, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Sarva Karma Kritahai. Everything can be done by how? Pleasing the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Krishna Bhakti. But it's nice how Prabhupada can phrase this and just like blend in both these verses from Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita. This mood of Arjuna seeing Krishna as a friend, and also that by pleasing Krishna, one can achieve everything. And this is also explained in another verse of Bhagavatam, right? That by watering the root of the tree, automatically all the limbs and branches and leaves of the tree are benefited. So we're always being directed by the Vedic literatures to just focus on the source of reality. Always look at the root of existence. Yes, you want to have breakfast. Yes, you want a good job. Yes, you want a partner. Yes, you want to be happy today. But these are leaves. These are leaves or maybe branches on the tree of existence. And it's going to be very difficult to do all of these individual things well if you have a separated intelligence by looking at breakfast and also lunch and also dinner and also my partner and also my conversations with my friends and also driving cautiously and remembering to breathe and eating at a regulated time and showing up to work in a no. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I want to be of service to Krishna, and by remembering this root of existence, by remembering the source of everything, Krishna, and by keeping our consciousness with him, while of course having the intention to be present in the world that he's created. Prabhupada said in a class once that the Vaishnava should be daksha, expert. Not that because we're dedicating our lives to Krishna, now I don't care about the material world. Prabhupada says, what material world? If you're a servant of Krishna and you realize and you understand that Krishna created everything, Janmad Yasya Yataha, everything that you see came from Krishna, then what is actually material? Everything belongs to him. So this table belongs to him. It's for holding a laptop and for keeping clean, right? And that table over there, or this bookshelf, is so that I can keep books about him, or I can keep the deities. And this kitchen is important. It has to be clean because something's going to be offered to him on the altar. And my body itself, it should be fit. I should eat well because I need to wake up early, and I need to chant, and I also need to lift things and drive attentively, and be able to do all the things that's required for life, because I'm a servant of Krishna. This body is also a tool for service of Krishna. In a previous life, I was maybe in the body of a bird, and I wasn't able to serve Krishna so nicely. Now that he's given me this body of a human, I want to take very good care. I want to take advantage and do everything that I can in Krishna's service. So that's being conscientious of the root of the tree. And if and everyone that's here in the morning, waking up at 8 o'clock so we can listen to Bhagavatam, we all have experiences of, look at how nice it is that serving Krishna, so many other things in my life have worked out. I was trying to concentrate, or I was trying to be a peaceful person, or I was trying to be friendly, or I was trying to let go of this addiction or that vice, whatever. And simply by associating with the Vaishnavas and by chanting, so many things that I tried to do on a separate endeavor have now become automatically achieved. This is, one can achieve all favors. That's sarva karma krita hoy, by Krishna bhakti. And there's another verse even in the Bhagavad Gita that mentions this, that the intelligence of those who are very concentrated upon the material world is many branched. Krishna uses the word many branched. So it harkens back to this verse in Bhagavatam of looking at the different branches and the different leaves and all the different fruits that can appear on the tree of reality. Oh, this is a totally different branch. No, my relationship with my family is totally unrelated to how I drive on the freeway, and how I drive on the freeway or in the car is totally unrelated to wanting to sleep early. And wanting to sleep early is totally unrelated to the way that I eat breakfast. These things are happening hours apart, and it's happening in a different part of the day. But the Vaishnav can see Sarva Kalv Idam Brahma. Everything is Krishna, or said more contemporaneously and with more ras, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Everything is Vasudeva. Everything is Vasudeva. I'm a part. I am the unlimited being expressing himself in limitedness. That's what I am. And this body is his different energies, and everyone that I see is also the unlimited expressing itself through limitedness. But a lot of the Vaishnava, a lot of the souls that I'm associating with are parts of his limitedness trying to reconnect themselves to his unlimitedness and express their tejas, the influence of their limitedness to attract the unlimitedness. So these are very special souls. Wow, amazing. And this apple is not really just an apple, but it's an opportunity for me to connect something to him again, to connect my own consciousness, to connect the sweetness of this apple to him. Wow, amazing. So great. So that's being focused. Vyavasayatmika buddhir. Ekeha Kurunandana. Devotees of the Lord and those who are dedicated to Krishna consciousness, they will have single-minded focus. Whereas those who are interested in other things, or that even if they're not overtly interested in other things, but they just don't know what everything has to do with Krishna, it'll be very fragmented. And that's obviously where our anxiety comes from. We feel like we're different people. I feel like I'm a different person when I'm outside of the house and when I'm inside and when I'm trying to go to bed, when I'm looking at my phone, or when no one's in the house. I'm like 7 different people, and that causes me so much anxiety because it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll wants to have a nice life and have his fork on the right side and his knife on the left side and his spoon on top of his plate. And he wants to, dress in a nice tie and have the house look organized. But then when Mr. Hyde comes around, he destroys his whole house. And then Dr. Jekyll has to wake up and clean everything up that his other identity is destroying all the time. So we're in so much anxiety because we're doing so many things that are counterintuitive to the other identity. And so we have to pick one. So if you pick the materialist, okay, like pick that and do it well. Be a very good karma kandi, like dedicate yourself to material activities. And the Vedas have a lot of instructions on how to do that well. You have to wake up, and then this demigod is in charge of this, and you have to worship, Indra for rains and grains. And if you want to have a good partner, you can reach out to Katyayani or Mahadev, and you have to perform this austerity. And if you look at Bhagavatam, it's so difficult. Like, if you want to have good offspring, for example, like what are the regulations for having like good offspring, and what are you eating, and what are you consuming, not only in for your stomach, but also in your eyes and in your consciousness. What kind of soul are you attracting? And do it perfectly and flawlessly if you can in Kali Yuga. And if you want to have a good job, how can you worship Ganapati properly? There's a pastime. The devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, they were having trouble paying rent. And, can we worship Ganapati or Ganesha? And Prabhupada said, yes, just cut me a check for $10,000 as well every month. Implying that if you're doing this and you're doing it well, give some dakshin to the gurus, giving you permission to do it. But you should also be well. That's another thing. If we're going to participate in karma kanda activities, there's so much sacrifice that's required. Even them that are considering going up to the celestial planetary systems, there's also so much that they have to give and to return. And so it's not just, well, I want to enjoy for myself, and that's what being a materialist means. That's not even materialism, that's vikarma. Not giving to anyone else is not even karma kanda. That's less than that. That's, well, I want to eat food and I don't want to offer it to anyone at all. That's not even in the Vedas. So so even being a materialist requires a lot of knowledge. Being a good materialist, a karma kandi, is a very elevated individual. The Shastras wouldn't even say that people in the United States are karmis necessarily, how we sometimes like say in a derogatory way, like it's a better thing to be a karmi than whatever's happening in the world, which is just whatever my senses dictate, immediately I'll do. That's not even connected to the mind, and it's not even connected to the intelligence. It's connected to instinct, which is just animal. So being a karmi would be it would be like a more noble thing than what a lot of us are. So vyavasayatmika buddhir, if we can just connect to Krishna and the source of all reality, then we'll be guided gradually through karma kanda, jnana kanda, and arrive at bhakti. But we should always have the idea that bhakti is the goal. I may be right now very interested in material things, but I'm doing this because I'm doing this to be proper for the sake of one day arriving at this real position. We can talk about that later. Something else that stuck out to me was that here in the verse itself, Sri Arjuna says, Yat Tejasata Bhagavan. How come he's calling Mahadev, Lord Shiva, Gidisha, Bhagavan? Sometimes there's confusion. We can read in Shastra, Narada Muni is called Bhagavan, or Mahadev is called Bhagavan, and Lord Sri Krishna is called Bhagavan as well. So who's Bhagavan? This title, Bhaga, Prabhupada, Parashara Muni explains, and Srila Prabhupada explains to us, Bhaga means an opulence, and Van means one who possesses fully this opulence. So this is generally, some people, they don't hear Bhagavan or this, one who possesses all opulence. Actually, Parashara Muni said, one who possesses all six opulences in full of strength, wisdom, renunciation, beauty, intelligence, and fame completely, that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he gives the title Bhagavan. And now Bhagavan is being used to describe Lord Shiva. So, but who's the Supreme then? I thought that Supreme was one, but here it seems like there are, So the way that we understand this, is that the devotees of the Lord are they partake the same way that the children of a very wealthy person partake in the wealth of the individual. Similarly, the children of the supreme being partake in the abilities and wealth and opulence of that person. However, Lord Mahadev is in a very special category, and with the blessings of the devotees, I'd like to speak to what capacity I have, given what the acharyas have said. Lord Vishnu is described as being that individual that's always above the effect of the three modes of nature. Brahmano pratishtaham. The Brahman is actually the effulgence of the Supreme Person, and the three modes of nature are beneath the purview of the effects of the Brahma Jyoti. So this Lord Vishnu is always above the three modes of nature. And the three modes of nature are characterized by the different modalities by which material nature is agitated. It can be agitated by a feeling of goodness or equanimity or balance. This table isn't vanishing right now, so there's a little bit of sattva going on in this table. I'm not disappearing from vision and just like exploding, and so there's sattva that's keeping my body in a sustaining it. But there's also rajas. When you see the clouds, there's movement happening, and then there's change and disturbance and growth. And there's also, it's happening very subtly, but there's also rajas happening, that cells are going through mitosis and meiosis, and cell differentiation is happening in the embryo. And so there's change. And there's also ignorance and there's also degradation and decline that's happening. It's harder for me to stand up suddenly when I'm sitting from chanting, because my knees hurt. So there's like a general pain that's happening. And then there's also just the general foolishness that covers my consciousness, that I constantly have to be reminded of who I am by Krishna within my heart, by the devotees externally, by my vows. And I always need to be reminded, Jivera Swarupahai Krishnera Nityadas. I'm actually a servant of Krishna. I'm not even American, I'm a permanent resident, but I'm also not even that. And I'm not a male either, and I'm not all these things. So that's ignorance. Lord Vishnu is always above that. One of the greatest effects of ignorance, however, is creating the illusion that something does not belong to Vishnu. As we mentioned, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, everything is Vasudev, and Sarvakalvidam Brahma, everything is Brahman, everything. However, by the effects of tamagun, it becomes possible for a being to perceive that there is something that is disconnected, binna prakriti, that water is separated from fire, separated from ether and false ego, and even separated from Brahman. So Vishnu is always above that. He is never affected by the illusion that it is possible to see that something is different. However, Lord Vishnu, they say, contacts the material world. So how is it possible for a being that is never affected by the ability to see distinction or something that is separate from him? He contacts this nature. How is it possible? Well, because because Lord Vishnu is supreme and he's capable of doing anything, he's also capable of doing the impossible. And Mahadev is an expression of the impossible, which is, how is it possible that the supreme being, who is always above the influence of illusion, can come into contact with something that is not him? And this is the great mystery of who Girisha is, of who Lord Shiva is. And so here, Arjuna, Sri Arjuna, is referring to him respectfully as Bhagavan. And it's said here that also the devotees of the Supreme Lord know how to respect the demigods. You know, Balanitai Prabhu reminded me the other day that there is an offense to the holy name, which is to consider that the names of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu. But what we don't always remember is that it's also an offense to disrespect it's also an offense to disrespect the demigods, and in particular Lord Shiva. So we should always be delicate regarding this, but we should see with the eyes of Shastra. Shastra will explain all of this to us, that they'll teach us how to be respectful, but also not to how to equate. So let's continue now with the second paragraph. If there's, we'll have time. Is there any questions or feedback or so far on the points that were mentioned? Anything that needs to be clarified, or any points that I spoke improperly about that need to be corrected?
I have a brief question.
Sure.
You mentioned that Lord Krishna was pleased by Arjuna. What do you imagine was the most pleasing thing Arjuna did for Sri Krishna?
Django Prabhu, that's a very nice question. So sometimes we want to look at what's the most pleasing thing. What we learn from our acharyas is that the living being pleases the Supreme Lord. Well, let's go to the Gita. There's a devotee, Hari Parshad Prabhu, said, what is the Gita about? And he gave two criteria by which we can find out. It's how does the book begin and how does it end? It begins with Arjuna surrendering to Krishna. Sharanam prapanam. Please instruct me. I don't know what to do. You're my very good friend. I trust your counsel. So just tell me what to do. And at the very end, well, actually, Krishna smiles there. And it's the Vedas say that if you can cause Krishna to smile, your life is perfect. So Krishna smiles when Arjuna surrenders. And at the very end, the essence of all his advice is Sharanam Prapanam. Arjuna, you should surrender to me. So from one perspective, we can see that the greatest thing that Arjuna did was to surrender to Krishna. In a more detailed way, we can see that he surrendered in a specific way. He surrendered, as Balanitai mentioned, as a friend. And there's other devotees that surrender as servants to Krishna. And there's different ways to surrender to Krishna, but we can see that that's what Krishna is asking in the Bhagavad Gita. Surrender to me. Later on, like here in the Bhagavatam, we're seeing what is the way that surrender is expressed. What was that? Okay, so in the Bhagavatam, we see what are different ways that surrender can happen. So Arjuna, we can see that he pleased Krishna by surrendering, and perhaps the greatest thing was as a friend. And then there's unlimited details of how that friendship expressed itself. Is that satisfactory?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, you bet. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the question. Okay, so we'll move on. Next paragraph. Another significance of the present verse is that Arjuna, by the grace of Lord Sri Krishna, was able to reach the heavenly planet even with the self-same body, and was honored by the heavenly demigod Indradev, being seated with him half elevated. One can reach the heavenly planets by the pious acts recommended in the Shastras in the category of fruitive activities. And as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9:21, When the reactions of such pious acts are spent, the enjoyer is again degraded to this earthly planet. The moon is also on the level with the let's just read this because it's nice. 921. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. The interesting thing is that even those who seek sense enjoyment without adhering to the principles of the Veda also achieve repeated birth and death. So even by living foolishly without guidance, we will also be stuck in samsara. It's not that sometimes people mistakenly think, oh, if I kill myself, I'll get out of this world. No, that you're an eternal being. It doesn't end. So you'll just be downgraded to like a form, either a ghostly form of life where you don't even have access to a gross material body as a punishment, or you'll get put in an animal life where that conforms to the type of consciousness you've developed in this human form. So this is the shame. The shame is that by following the karma kanda portion of the Vedas, which is understanding the intricacies of action and reaction, you get the same thing generally that people which do not know that get, which is birth and death. Of course, you can argue, well, I'll get put in a heavenly kingdom. I'll get to drink somaras and I'll get to live for 10,000 years. And I'll get to spend time with a lot of beautiful people. And there's a lot of enjoyment to be gotten. But from the perspective of somebody who has been given a drop of understanding of what the actual position of the soul is, it sounds like you're saying, well, I'll have a good dream. Well, I won't have a nightmare. Yeah, but you're sleeping. What does that compare to being awake and interacting with a real person that you love and who loves you? What could you tell a person that's really in love with someone else? Oh, I'll help you dream really nicely. Even if you dream of the person that you're with, it's not an actual interaction with them. So anyone who's been graced with a little bit of understanding by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of what the actual position of the soul is, to be an eternal servant of Krishna, relating with Krishna's friends and servants in the spiritual world in unending shows of love, what good is any of this? So, the moon is also on the level with the heavenly planets, and only persons who have performed virtues only. It's also, it's also a big distraction. And Bhagavatam says, Amarendra Prabhu mentioned in one of his classes that Bhagavatam, when it begins, it says that this Bhagavatam is avoiding all cheating religions. And it's a cheat to try to allure somebody for some material pleasure. I'm reading the 7th canto right now, and in it, Narada Muni is describing the behavior of a perfect sannyasi. And he's saying that the guru should never allure their followers with the promise of some material benefit. This whole world is cheating us by saying, oh, if you do this, you'll get $100, or you'll get 1,000, or you'll get to have a nice boat or a nice house, or you'll get to look pretty if you do this plastic surgery, or if you just advertise my company. A lot of people are interested in Instagram. They're like, oh, you'll get 1,000 followers, or people can applaud you if you just behave this way. It's all cheating. And it's a shame because we're so small that we're always looking for the shelter of something. And this material world is cheating us by giving us temporary shelter. But it's like being out in the cold and it's raining and somebody says, oh, come into my house. You can stay, but they don't tell you you can only stay for 5 minutes. And so you come in and your heart is so relieved that it's warm for a second, and then and you see light, and it's not raining on you, and this person smiled and said, oh, come in, and that's a nice thing to come in. And then you come in, and before you even start taking off your backpack, all right, get out. And then they kick you out, not even just come out nicely. They kick you out, and then you're out in the street raining again. And that's all of life. It's like all you see is the niceness that somebody wants to feel like they're nice by inviting you to do something. But then once they've gotten what they want, you go. And we're not different. We do the same thing to people. As soon as I get my sense gratification from someone, I don't want to have anything to do with them. I'm ready to sleep now, and I don't want to take care of anyone else. I don't have any responsibility to anyone else. And this is our unfortunate position, that we are being cheated by other people, and we're also cheating. And the Bhagavatam is saying, we're finishing with that. This Bhagavatam will not talk about anyone, any process that is stimulating you to accept the cheat of anyone else, and it is also going to raise you to the platform of you will stop cheating other people. And so it's going to be very harsh with us also, and it's going to be very discerning of what the world is doing. But with the purpose of that is because we don't belong to this cheating world. You don't need to cheat. Krishna loves you how you are. You are capable as a being made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss by the grace of gurus and enlightened beings. It is possible for you by their grace to do something that makes Krishna smile. And also, you have the right as an eternal part of Krishna to take shelter forever. You don't need to be in this temporary situation of going from door to door, house to house, in the cold rain, in a body that is not yours. You can accept your actual form in a form that's fit to be always related to somebody who really loves you for who you are. And you don't need to develop another body. I don't need to become more beautiful or to become another gender, to become more intelligent. How I am within all of this covering is perfectly equipped to be blissful and to have a relationship with a person that I really love and who really loves me as it is, as I am. Okay. Only persons who have performed virtues only, performing sacrifices, giving charity, and undergoing severe austerities can be allowed to enter into the heavenly planets after the duration of the life of the body. Arjuna was allowed to enter into the heavenly planets in the self-same body simply by the grace of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible to do so. The present attempts to enter into the heavenly planets by the modern scientists will certainly prove futile, because such scientists are not on the level of Arjuna. They are ordinary human beings without any assets of sacrifice, charities, or austerities. The material body is influenced by the three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. The present population is more or less influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance, and the symptoms for such influence are exhibited in their becoming very lusty and greedy. Such degraded fellows can hardly approach the higher planetary systems. Above the heavenly planets, there are many other planets also, which only those who are influenced by, goodness can reach. In heavenly and other planets within the universe, the inhabitants are all highly intelligent, many more times than the human beings, and they are all pious in their higher and highest mode of goodness. They are all devotees of the Lord, and although their goodness is not unadulterated, which means that there's still some mix of passion and ignorance, still they are known as demigods, possessing the maximum amount of goodness, of good qualities possible within the material world. We have a short amount of time, and so I'd like to honor the presence of the devotees here and just leave the rest of time for your presence. I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are exactly like desire trees. By your grace, I was given an opportunity to serve the Bhagavatam, and by your presence, I was enlivened and encouraged to do some service to my spiritual master and to all of you. Thank you very much. If there's any comments or concerns or questions or corrections, please, the time is yours. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Danaraj Prabhu. Hope you're doing well. So Prabhuji left time for questions, answers, or questions and comments. So please share. Hare Krishna.
if there are no questions or concerns, I could relate in brief the story of Arjuna fighting with Shiva if anyone is interested.
Prabhu, I have one comment, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your class. It was very relatable, and I'm able to understand the verse and the connection. The one sentence that you said was really powerful, where you said, like, when you are out in the cold and we are going in for a few minutes and you are being kicked out, that's like our temporary. It was so very good. I was able to really relate to that. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your class.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. I'm of course sorry that you can relate to that, but yeah, Hare Krishna.
So I think, since I'm not hearing other questions or comments, would you like to continue? You nicely left plenty of time. I think, although that's a pretty long pastime as well. But I think go ahead. Maybe you can speak on that if you desire.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it's in brief, Arjuna was trekking up to the celestial kingdom, and on the path there was a hunter that attacked him, and Arjuna, having very quick reflexes, dodged the attack and immediately got on the defensive and put himself in like a defensive position and tried to find out where the arrows were coming from. And then after a moment, another arrow came, and he quickly dodged it. And then he sent out some celestial weapons, and they did some fantastic thing in the air and moved around and went towards that target. But the hunter retaliated and sent out arrows again. And it was there were many weapons that Arjuna had reserved for special instances, and he had to employ all of those weapons in this fight, and it was to no avail. The hunter that was dressed in deerskin was attacking relentlessly and without holding up at all. It was not being slowed down at all by Arjuna's attacks. And Arjuna thought to himself that, in the mortal kingdom or on earth, because he was trekking up to the celestial kingdom and he was beyond the plane of the earthly realm. She's like, there's no earthly being that would be able to not only defend but to counterattack my weapons. There's no individual that could do this. There's only one person that might be able to do this, and that's Mahadev. And so from behind a tree, hiding behind a tree, Arjuna put his bow and arrow away, and he made a small deity of Lord Shiva with soil. And then he pulled a flower from a nearby tree, and he offered obeisances and put the flowers down on top of this deity. And when he turned around, he saw the hunter, and the same flowers that he had dropped on this deity of Lord Shiva were falling on the hunter over there. And so he knew, this is Shiva. And so he offered respectful obeisances and stopped fighting. One lesson that we can take from this is that Arjuna was performing his duty as a Kshatriya to defend himself against a fight. And oftentimes, when we're consumed and absorbed in what our duties are in the world, we want to fight with the world. I want to have a nice house, and it's important for me to get a good job and to fight and stuff. But the instant that we realize that this is, I'm hitting a wall. I'm getting to this place of I can't go beyond what this is. I've reached my limit. And so the devotee Arjuna recognized the only person that would be able to not back down according to my limit is Mahadev, who's the superintending deity of this material nature itself. And so Arjuna's attitude and behavior is the attitude that we should follow as well, which is to offer obeisances. This is why fight sometimes Mahadev will want to engage us in some kind of fight for the purpose of pastime and for the purpose of our duty, which should happen in the world, and we should engage. But if he's saying, okay, no more past this, then the attitude is to offer obeisances. And this was what Prabhupada means by the devotee knows how to respect the demigods. We're ultimately, I mean, who is Maya also? Maya that we insult often, she's a pure devotee. And at some point we will want to take this attitude of reverence with Maya and realize that, she's interacting this way because we're misbehaving with other jivas. We're misbehaving with the way that we're using our body. We're misbehaving with her own energy. And so the proper thing is to offer obeisances and apologize. I'm sorry, this doesn't belong to me. And you're a devotee of Krishna. And I understand that you're doing this for my well-being. We'll be able to achieve that vyavasayatmika buddhi when we fully identify as devotees. Then it will be easier to do this. It's hard to do that all the time. But that's one thing that I took from that pastime that I appreciate. Thank you again for your time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Another opportunity to devotees to make comments, questions, appreciations are nice as well.
Thanks, Prabhuji, for elaborating on the purport nicely.
Yeah, thank you
Sharing
so
your
much.
realizations.
At your service.
Thank you, Danaraj, for a nice lecture. How you contemplated with references from various verses from Bhagavad Gita, especially 9:21. Love it. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your wisdom. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your nice question. That's a good question. It got me to think.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much for the beautiful class as always. Perfect example, easy to understand. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Something interesting that I read some time ago when we were doing our Bhagavad Gita review about 5 years ago for our group from Chaitanya Prabhu was he was saying, I'll just paraphrase that looking at Srila Prabhupada's purport, the second half about Devata, seva of Devata, or service of Devata, or attachment or attraction towards Devata. He said that today people seek material improvement mainly through technology, hoping that the gadgets and comforts that come as a result will make them happier. And he said in a more religious culture, like in the past, people sought the same material progress by going to heavenly situations by performing, elaborate rituals. I thought that was a nice analogy. He said it was their version of the yajna, etc., were their version of material technology. I thought that was insightful statement, that we kind of mistake the things of this world to be the ends and the means for acquiring those things that will make us happy. And so essentially, the purpose of the Charyas is to inform us about what is available spiritually. So, we don't let that urge for betterment through material drive us towards things that are ultimately going to be at a material level. So I thought that was a very insightful statement by him that, the nature of the mind hasn't changed. It's just the means to the end may on a material level have changed. Does that make sense?
Brilliant.
Yeah, I thought that was very insightful. Anyways, I hope you're all doing well and really nice to see you. Pandita Prabhu told me that you're now in warm Alachua.
That's right. We're living in Alachua now. However, today we're in Los Angeles. We came for Ratha Yatra.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so right now we're in Los Angeles.
Nice. That's nice that you're getting a chance to get back to your roots in a way.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I hope everything's going well with you. Take care. Maybe visit us sometimes when you have some time. I know you're busy, but thank you for this seva. In spite of time differences between East Coast and West Coast, you're still doing it, and that's very wonderful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you always for the invitation.
Panchakalpatarivasa,
Panchakapatarivisha,
Kripasandavirja,
Kripasandivirja, Patitanam
and
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namo.
Namah.
Thank you. Take care. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.